All right, good afternoon. It is about 2:35 on Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. And this meeting of the Sandpoint Parks and Recreation Commission is now called to order. For the record, I am Chairman Taylor Long, presiding in the City Council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. Commission members present are all commissioners except for we have Heidi, Lori, and who else was missing here? Tyler. Next, we'll proceed with the general public comment portion of the meeting. General comment time provides us an opportunity for members of the public in attendance to address the commission regarding items included on today's agenda under old or new business. For purposes of a general public forum, you are also welcome to comment on any topic pertinent to the business of the city of Sandpoint, not included on the agenda and not anticipated or scheduled for future public hearing. I would like to make everyone aware that the city does have a policy on public meeting decorum. The rules are posted just outside the chamber entry doors. In summary, I would ask that everyone please be pleasant and respectful, not make derogatory statements about others, including city staff, not be disorderly and disruptive, no calling out, clapping, or holding up signs. Public comment time is for comments only, no questions or debate. You're welcome to contact the Community Planning and Development Director, Jason Welker, during regular business hours if you have any questions or concerns. This is the only general public comment time that will be offered during this meeting. Those attending remotely who wish to speak may raise a hand on Zoom at this time. When called upon by the board chair and it is your turn to speak, please state your name and whether you reside in Sandpoint city limits. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. Who would like to begin?
All the comment time? Yeah, jump in. So you all have changed it. You have to speak at the public before hearing what you all have to say before bringing up the agenda item. So we're sort of
Correct.
speaking blind. That's
Could you state your name and
Clay
your
Hutchinson,
resident?
Sandpoint resident. I believe on your agenda is some further discussion about the RV park. Stood up last January when the city was staff was requesting permission to apply for the grant. Made the comment that we had a approved master plan that a land swap that was done in concert with the master plan, part of the master plan, but done with that. And that swap is done specifically to leave the boat launch parking. It was not for the city to remain in the RV park business. And the approved master plan showed an awful lot of improvements for the functionality of the city beach that did not show an RV park there. So to jump ahead without fairly robust public involvement and input, because the parks plan had probably the best public input we've seen in this town since I've been here. There was numerous meetings, just a lot of input, a lot of good input, and those ideas really reflected, as a master plan should, what the community was desiring. The discussions that went around the land swap, which a little bit of green grass, a lot of green grass from the hotel, et cetera, also had significant, robust public input. Some people were for it, some people were against it. I think if people had thought that the city was doing this to stay in the RV park business, that discussion would have taken a very different turn in terms of support for it. And then you've got the Averill Group involved in there. I'm not defending the Averill Group, but I'll say one thing. When they bought the hotel opportunity, they were under the idea that there was no RV park there because they were under the idea of the parks plan. Now, that doesn't mean the city can't change this. No one's saying that. But if the city decides that they think for the city business, income or whatever, the advanced tourism of having, keep my people in Sandpoint don't take their RVs and look at the RV park at Sandpoint. So it's really out of tap people. If the city really wants to push that, fine. but you have to have, in my opinion, really robust public comment. Now, I know at the last city meeting, they said they're gonna hold a bunch of workshops or whatever. Let's at least start with the baseline of what the approved parks plan was and go forth then. And if this community decides that the income that's generated from that is important, then great, so be it. But for the city to just kind of do this under the radar, it's not on the radar, it's all public. I'm not saying that, but you know, when the grant was approved in
I'm
July,
gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
when it was approved in July, you know, no one probably paid attention to the proof, and it really needs to be looked at thoroughly before embarking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Clay. Who would like to speak next?
Well,
Anyone?
I guess I will.
Okay.
My name's Jackie Hanna and I live in Sandpoint. And I was here the last meeting concerned with the HVAC system on the end of the center. And I still am concerned with that. I also went back and looked at some minutes from prior meetings and it appeared that the city was going to take care of putting up a sound barrier. And when I was here at the last meeting, it seemed like that wasn't even going to happen. So I'd like to just comment that I'm still concerned about the noise level and how it's changed the atmosphere of my backyard and my neighbor's back.
Thank you.
Bill Strand, Sandpoint resident. Jackie's neighbor. Not here to talk about the HVAC unit concern. My concerns are come from another source. I think with the popularity of pickleball, everybody has heard the issues of the noise level around. It's been well documented. Because it's so popular, we've heard about that. But what has not been documented as well is the similar type of cells around batting cages. That if you go online and take a look at documentation of the number of lawsuits that have happened across the US, they're with HOAs, parks, schools, etc. With the advent of aluminum bats and balls, anybody who watches the game knows aluminum bats. That's a lot here than our old wood bats my age. Putting in a enlarged batting cage. Playing odds that we're going to see a well-defined increase in the noise level. I'm not going to argue against where they're at. It's kind of silly of all the places in that very large park that it was put next to instances seems sensible, but in lieu of that, some type of noise mitigation should be instituted there. Otherwise, that crack, crack, crack that you're going to be hearing is going to be pretty hefty. And so I'm asking that the Parks Commission consider as part of their enhancement of noise mitigation. But it's from
You? Yes, ma'am.
Sharon Strand, live adjacent to Traverse Park. And we're all still very concerned about the noise issues with the HVAC. It really has taken away our backyards. The noise, constant noise there. And I was looking at the city's comprehensive plan due on July. There's a section in there about protecting existing neighborhoods. And there's development, then there should be a buffer and something that is in place to protect the existing neighborhoods. Noise, traffic, whatever it is. And I would ask that
with this comprehensive plan, it seems like uh, surprised that we have to come here repeatedly and beg some sort of noise mitigation there so that we can have our backyards. Secondly, the batting cage location is not where it is supposed to be. I know that the recreation plan from the 20 is dismissed as old and somebody out of town, but it is our plan. And I believe it has to be amended, not just ignored. In the plan, it's not located there. And it's not just resurrecting something that was there before. You go out there and look at the space. We went out right before we came over. It's at least double the size, maybe triple the size of this giant gravel pad it's supposed to be. So, and that was done without any public input. Whereas the plan, recreation plan was developed with extensive community inputs. I think there's something flawed there. And I asked that slow down and people take a better look at that to see if it's, I recall when I asked about that space, when the whole thing was being developed, I recall that I was told that that was for emergency vehicles to turn around because the building was so large. And if it got on fire, there would be giant trucks and they needed a place to turn around. So I don't know if the fire department approved leasing this pad. I don't know, but I remember I was told that that's what that pad was. Turn around.
Thank you. Any other members of the public or online? We have somebody there who would like to speak today?
Any hands raised?
Okay. And that will conclude the general public comment portion of the meeting. We will now proceed with the approval of the minutes from the commission's last meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on October 8th, 2025. So moved. We have a motion to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor? Aye.
I have a second.
Oh, you did not. Somebody second that. Second.
Who said that?
I'll second.
You did, okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Cammy. Okay, minutes from last meeting are approved, and now we will begin with the Averill RV park request, meeting recap and next steps. Jason?
Okay, thanks, commissioners. So been very busy around City Hall, and I did prepare for you a staff report, which Amy's going to add to the record after the fact. Normally, I would have liked to get this uploaded a couple days ago. Sure you're aware of what's going on, but I did get a little update for you. And if it's okay with the chair, I think I'd like to start with item 3. That's the order that I wrote my staff report in, and we can kind of dive into that. So I'm going to share my screen so the public can see what we're looking at here. And so we're going to start with where we left off last, which was the ranking or the assigning of points to various parks capital improvement plans, given our kind of budget for parks projects in the new fiscal year, which started last month. And we had a little exercise last month where you were all given 100 points that you could put towards different projects. And after that meeting, I totaled all that up, and this is where we landed as far as we had about 10 or so projects to choose from that staff viewed as kind of feasible given the funding we have available in the next year, out beyond the grant funding that we have been awarded, which was around $150,000. So we're looking at about $150,000 kind of discretionary funding for implementation of parks improvements in the next year. And the results of that ranking exercise are what we see here. Overwhelmingly, the outdoor basketball court rehab was this group's favored priority for next year, receiving 240 points. Implementation of a non-motorized kayak and SUP storage at City Beach was second with 175 points. And third was looking at a planning effort around the Euclid right-of-way water access at the end of Euclid. The city owns 60 feet of right-of-way going out into the lake at that property. There's not necessarily the potential for the kind of improvement we have at Third Street Pier because we don't own the land underneath the water once you get out about 10 feet. But there's been for a long time, there's been discussions of exploring a little neighborhood park at the end of Euclid there. So that's how the scoring played out in that.
Real quick, did every commissioner vote?
Yes,
Even
every
the-
commissioner was present.
Just the present people? So
Yeah.
the folks who were not present didn't end up turning?
No, the ones who voted remotely did. So this included their scores as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Of us.
They reported to me by,
Great.
collated. Yeah. So, these results, I've already begun sort of the ground planning for the highest priority, and I printed out for you, and I can share that on the screen as well. What I've gathered so far is when it comes to the basketball court rehab. So I wanted to have a ballpark figure for you today, so we have kind of an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the cost of rehabilitating all 4 of our outdoor basketball courts. And this is, you can't see my screen now. I got to stop sharing and share a different screen. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can share full screen. So you see. So I have gotten actually quotes from a couple contractors for the basketball court project. 2 local contractors have submitted their quotes. You can see those figures here. We've got some preliminary estimates for painting that I'm still getting. I need a couple others that I'm looking for quotes from. Then I've sourced the costs of various basketball hoop solutions. So we're looking at around $100,000, $110,000 to redo all 4 of our outdoor basketball courts. That's 2 here at Pine Street Park, City Beach Park, and Hickory Park. So it's there's another basketball court at Lakeview Park, but it's kind of been converted to pickleball courts. So it's much less used by basketball players today, and it's all restriped for pickleball today. So focusing on the existing basketball courts that we have, I think I'm confident that we could get all 4 basketball courts basically completely rehabbed. This should be a new asphalt layer on the courts here at Pine Street Park, and new clear coat paint and striping on all the courts. So the courts here at Pine Street Park are by far the worst shape. The City Beach court and the Hickory Park court are in much better shape. Very minimal cracking, much smoother surface. So the contractors I met with both proposed the same solution for our Pine Street Park courts. That's to apply a fiberglass tape over all the cracks, and then a fresh coat of asphalt of about 2 inches over the entire surface. Turns out that the foundation over there is like a foot thick concrete pad. There must have been a warehouse of some sort there before it was a city park. I don't know. No, none of the contractors I spoke to knew what was there before the basketball courts, but it was not originally built as a basketball court. We used the foundation from some ancient structure there to put basketball courts on sometime in the more recent history. So I wanted to share these numbers with you guys. I'm excited. I think this is a really cool project that we can deliver by spring. New hoops, the estimates I got for hoops are for, acrylic clear backboards with breakaway rims. We're talking like much better play experience. I grew up playing basketball, and I always appreciated the public courts that had.
Me too. I gotta dust off.
High quality hoops, sir. I know, I'm gonna have to I actually have a basketball in my office now. So since I started working, I've been out shooting hoops just to experience the courts a little better. And they're pretty bad. They're in pretty bad shape out here. It's hard to keep your ball bouncing.
I knew it wasn't my shot.
No, yeah, playing it on the, yeah. So, with the commission's kind of green light, I'd like to continue working on this. There's kind of action items at the end of the agenda, at the end of my staff report, but, let's talk about item number 2. So item number 2 is a non-motorized kayak and SUP storage at City Beach. I have not done any investigation into this yet, but I plan to in the weeks and months ahead. I don't really know what the solutions are. I'm pretty sure there's like off-the-shelf kayak and SUP storage solutions with lockable slots that you can lease out or use for that for that purpose. So I do plan to investigate that and bring something to you in the future. And then item 3 is the Euclid right-of-way. I just want to make it clear, I kind of put this in a note underneath here. We don't have money in the budget next year to do anything at Euclid, but to start looking at what we can do at Euclid, I think it's important to have a plan concept for how we might activate that space. We could use any sort of concept that we develop for grant writing purposes, to present a funding request to city council. Possibly if we go for a local option tax next year, maybe improved access to the water. Might be something we can add in with other much needed infrastructure projects in the city. So to have some concepts that we can just put forward for future funding requests, I think is a really good idea. And one of the messages I'm getting in Sandpoint right now is that the city should be protecting public access to the water and enhancing public access to the water. So this is a great opportunity to do that. So maybe I'll just pause there and see if there's any questions, because one of my requests from you today is just to get kind of feedback on these efforts and see if I'm going in the right direction.
I was curious why the city owns that parcel at Euclid, if you know the history behind it. I did walk it yesterday, and that is a cool little spot I hadn't been out to, but I was just curious. There seems to be like a sewer cap there or some type of,
I'm sure it's a stormwater outfall. We have pipes underground that collect stormwater and they discharge at various points along the lake, but
so is it an easement or what it? what
no,
was
it's
the
city
intended-
owned property.
I think it's just right away that extends out,
It's just right away, like from the road
extended
that
from.
would go
yeah,
to. the
From
water.
Euclid out to,
It's a similar situation at Third Street Pier, of course.
It's just interesting. It's never been looked at before this for public access.
it's
Like I had never been down there.
actually,
They come in right there.
it's actually included.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where the old
But
Walgreens
there's nothing there mentioning that it exists.
Right.
Do you think
it's-
maybe it's just been passed over because of its proximity to Memorial? You know, and there's something.
There are several street ends like that. It's not the only.
Yeah, there are
Right.
division ends on the water as well. It just happens to end with like a 20-foot riprap wall going down the water. Far harder to access the water from the
Yeah.
other division.
Well, I love the direction and I think it's exactly the sort of thing we need to get done. I would suggest whatever we come up with the kayak and paddleboard storage, it's like very, very low. We don't need people checking to see if they've paid their bill and stuff. Maybe it's just, it's open container and it has the ability to lock your stuff up. Just simple is good, right? Requires less energy. So, but I love the direction of everything.
Anybody else?
Just when I was down at the Euclid property, the owner I spoke to, who was on the. It would be the west side.
Yep, that's,
They were very like in support, but I asked about the owner on the other side and it sounded like that was less interested.
talked to both. Yeah, in fact, owner on the west side has sent letters to the city urging us
Right, that's.
to
what he
do
meant.
something with his property because he's afraid that he's an older gentleman. He's afraid that in the future, a future owner of his property might like claim ownership of the city property.
I did not literally know what property I was walking on, you know, that's kind of how the conversation came up, but just to bring to everyone's attention.
The
The
property-
other property owner, it sounds like is less interested.
He mows it, right? He maintains it. So the property owner to the east actually volunteers to come in and mow all this. This is, I mean.
So you're saying
Colton's
property
our
owner,
parks maintenance team member here, and we don't mow this property, but this is a city owned right of way. So one of the things that we would be looking at is taking this into kind of our parks portfolio.
yeah,
If we improve it, we're gonna maintain it. So it adds a asset for the community, but it's also something that we're gonna have to begin maintaining. You know, our crews would go down there and mow it.
But just like Third Street, and that's
Yes,
minuscule amount
yeah,
of
it's not a
time,
lot.
Yeah.
what we're getting.
But yeah, I've spoken to both the property.
but
owners
if
on
you
your side.
highlight the city, can you highlight the city parcel in there on your,
It doesn't really highlight right of ways, but you can see it. It's just you can
right,
highlight the properties around it. So
You
yeah,
can see kind of, yeah.
yeah.
The line ends.
So the other person owns the littoral rights in front of it though?
yeah, once you get out in the water, this property owner owns
Gotcha,
the water, but we have about 10 feet from the shoreline. of the
gotcha.
water. So I think a concept here might include some stone steps down into the water for
Mhm.
access for swimming. Not, obviously not a pier. We're not gonna be building a pier out here.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
then some simple improvements, park benches, picnic tables, shade, awnings, things like that.
Yeah,
Maybe a pickleball, just kidding. Way too close to the neighbors, way too close to the neighbors. No batting cages or pickleball, but no horseshoes, I don't know, something. Fishing, yeah, fish to fish. So,
I remember when we first started this commission, we were talking about access to the water, access to the lake. So I think this is huge and the easy way to get access.
Yeah,
without a lot of costs.
there wasn't like a lot of parking issues down there when I was walking there. You know, there's a lot of street parking available.
It's small, so it's not
Right.
gonna be super crowded. I don't think it'll be nice for that area to just want to access the lake.
And not go to Memorial Field, yeah.
Yeah,
All that.
Especially kids with like littles sitting on activities, something quiet for the little kids. Would we run into any issue with, like, if people are in the water beyond that 10 feet with the,
Sure, water rights tonight. Once you're out on the lake,
you're good?
it's, yeah, your public access is welcome. That's
Okay.
why, I also like,
Of the waters are.
you know, when,
State of
in the
Washington.
winter time, this is popular
On
walking.
our lake, it's the artificial high water versus an actual high water mark, because
Right.
it's dam created.
Right.
There would be issues probably when the water was low. That soil.
Wandering, yeah.
There's a lot of issues around the lake with it was low, it's the actual soil versus when it's up.
It's very interesting how this part of town was platted, probably 1930s, well before the dam was constructed, because this was, you know, usable land in the low water, which is that the water was only at its peak for a couple of days a year before the dam was constructed. So then it receded. This would have all been, I've heard stories of cattle grazing out here at low water.
They appear, the owners on the east to have private submerged property is what they're calling it on Lake Monterey.
Yeah.
You would actually.
As do all these owners. I mean, all of these lots go out like.
The ones that
100
go out.
yards. Very interesting, which makes them huge lots with very small amount of buildable land. Right? I don't know if they're paying taxes on that. Sure.
But it sounds like both owners all the residential folks are on board with
Yeah.
the small.
Yeah, the
There's
owner
no-
to the west is one of the reasons we're talking about this,
Right.
because
I
he's
remember
written
you saying that,
letters,
yeah.
requested that we move forward with a project here. So. Thank you. Any
I'm
other
excited
comments?
about number one too.
Russell's?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's what everyone voted for. Seems like a big need in Sandpoint.
Absolutely.
Maybe lots of kids and families excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, racket sports have had their moment and, you know, we've done some cool things for volleyball and I think it's basketball tonight.
And reminder, the Arts Commission really wants to partner on at least one court to do a artistic painting
Right.
on the court. So I'll be coordinating with them. They
Cammy,
provide-
did you ever, do you have that? I sent you a aerial photo of one sample.
Yes,
Do you still have that? I wonder if that's something you can share now. It's
can't
probably,
remember
it was a
at
while.
this point what I did with it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some really cool examples of public art on basketball courts.
I was humbled the other day because I was kind of against it originally.
Uh-huh.
And then I watched the NBA game the other day. It was the Timberwolves and it was like bright green and their faces were glowing green.
Well, it's
I was
because
like,
during they have a tournament within the NBA season now.
Yeah.
And during the tournament, all the NBA teams put out these like custom colored
Yeah,
courts.
yeah.
And then
So
they remove them.
I was like, maybe I'm just too old school. Too schooly.
And that's 100,000 all in hoops, sealant,
Yeah,
everything,
that's,
and
I mean, ballpark. Yeah.
the fiberglass tape or whatever that would hold off.
Yep.
Like, what's the time?
That
you
gets,
would
that
expect
gets covered in
something
asphalt.
like this?
Yeah, and
So
it's
asphalt.
meant to like keep the cracks from.
Just like
From propagating up through the surface, so that's just
Got
bridging that.
yeah. How long does an asphalt?
I asked, said, 20, 30 years, they're
Wow.
not driving any machinery on here, so it's not, there's
Yeah.
nothing that's gonna be cracking it, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
okay, shall we move on to the next item? Okay. A lot has happened since our last meeting. In early October. Specifically, everybody knows what's been in the papers. There was a meeting last Wednesday, on October 15th. Which was the week after our meeting in October. The Averill family sent a letter to city council, which I'm sure you've all seen at least snippets of in the paper, basically asking council to reconsider the improvements to the RV park at that location. That request, knowing our timeline, like we had finalists for the engineering for that project scheduled for interviews. I urged the mayor to get this before council as soon as possible so that staff could have direction on whether to move forward with the RV park or to pivot and do something else there. So that request came to council just 2 weeks later. Had to be It's too late on October 15th to get it for the October 21st meeting, but we got it to the November 5th meeting. And that was the one that took place here a week ago today. Presentation from the Averils, questioning from council, and then about 2 hours of public comment, limited to 90 seconds each. So you can imagine there were probably 40 people who spoke during that time, at least. By about 8:30, the conversation wrapped up and a motion had been made by one council member, seconded and then amended to deny, I'm sure it was where it's deny the current request for lease or sale of the RV park property to the Averils, but to engage in some community workshops in the Averils, that was clearly stated, around the best use of that property for the city. So you scroll down, see my notes here. This is all in front of you. Okay, so the next steps are to organize the community workshop, or who's familiar with the concept of a charrette? A charrette is just defined as a meeting in which all stakeholders in a project attempt to resolve conflicts and map solutions. Okay, it's right out of the dictionary. So a charrette is generally a community workshop, but there's a lot of engagement. There's a lot of involvement with the participants. So imagine 10 round tables, 10 people around each table, and you've got posters and you've got a direction from the facilitator who's, asking us to engage in this visioning exercise. So that's what we want to do between now and January. A survey is also being drafted. I'll share that with you in a moment. I might not share that with you today. I think I need to, I'm not quite ready to share that despite what the staff report says. So hold off and after I have a chance to run it by a couple other important stakeholders in City Hall, I might forward it to you for some feedback, but we're not going to look at the draft survey right now. Surveys obviously are a way to reach far more people. We can host a workshop. We might get 40, we might get 50. We had 100 people come to our workshop over at the James E. Russell Center back in May. That was a hugely successful one, in my opinion. So we don't know exactly, but a survey is always going to reach more people. So I am working on a draft survey that I'm sharing with the mayor tomorrow. So I'll hold off until after he's had a chance to get feedback on that. The goal here is, of course, to, as Mr. Hutchinson pointed out, engage. I mean, there was always going to be community engagement throughout the RV park renovation process, but with council's pausing of that effort, we're going to do some community engagement right now. And I did just want to comment on the parks master plan and how that fits in with various projects. So we have some concepts from our parks master plan that were adopted in 2020 that envisioned alternative uses. Subsequently, we had the downtown design competition, which changed once again a vision for this property. This is an accepted report. It's been accepted by city council. It's not an adopted master plan. We did not subsequently amend our parks master plan after accepting the results of the design report, but it is an alternative kind of vision for how we could reorient parking at City Beach. This vision does not entail moving the boat launch. You can see the boat launches are in the same location. The parks master plan, on the other hand, envisioned complete relocation of the boat launches to the end of what's currently the RV park. So
The one you're on right now is.
that's the adopted parks master plan.
Adopted,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you see, we got boat trailer parking, and we've got, basically, this plan completely separates boat trailers from the rest of City Beach. You never have a boat trailer pulling through City Beach parking lot again. And moving the boat launches entirely to a new location. So a question is like, well, why isn't the city doing this? And the same could be asked of the broader Traverse Park adopted master plan as well. It's one thing to keep in mind about these master plans is that these are long-term visions. And when funding is available for components, we implement components. But if funding is not available for a component, we look at maintaining the assets that we have in our parks. We have an RV park in this park, and we have $1 million of state dollars to renovate that. We do not have $10 to $15 million to move boat ramps and put boat trailer parking in a location where it was envisioned 5-6 years ago through a master planning process. If this entire parks master plan was developed, and then you'll recall, put to voters in the 2021 local option tax ballot initiative. They put this entire plan out to voters. There were 5 pages, basically. You had Farman's Landing, you had City Beach, you had Traverse Park, and there was one of the park, I think Lake View, it was just those three. It was those three were kind of the grand images of the Parks Master Plan. And the goal was to get a local option tax, which would have raised between $2.5 and $3 million a year, which could have been put towards matching funds for big grants. And we could have spent $5 to $10 million a year over 10 years to implement this $150 to $200 million Parks Master Plan. Voters rejected that. And with that, this Parks Master Plan went on the shelf, and it's a long-term concept to be brought out when funding is available. But until funding is available, we pursue funds to improve the park assets that we have today. We rebuild the batting cages where they are. We reinvest in the RV park where it is. So that's a really important thing to understand. We don't implement the Parks Master Plan until we have a funding mechanism to do it. We invest in and we maintain the assets that we have. So why is the city considering putting $1 million renovation into the RV park as it is today? Because it's there today. It's an asset that generates $80,000 of net revenue for the Parks Capital Improvement Fund. And we have $1 million, $950,000 from the state of Idaho to invest in that. If an offer had come along 10 months ago to invest $1 million in this location for an alternative use, such as the implementation of boat trailer parking here, I can almost guarantee you that's probably what we'd be doing today. But that offer didn't come until October 15th, which was 10 months too late, in my opinion. So that's a little context to, you know, I've been getting quite a bit of flack lately. Like, why are we doing an RV park? Because we have an RV park here and we don't have any resources to implement anything else. So just a little context for this commission with regards to that.
I do remember discussing that too, when we gave you the go ahead to apply for the grant. I believe I had the same question of, I had like the idea of moving the ramp and moving the moorage. And I do remember you saying that, you know, there's no money for a long time now. There won't be money, and that we have to take care of what we have. And if it is an income generating asset to enhance it, I do believe this group of people sat around and talked.
We did, and I think on the August 6th, city council voted to accept this grant and move forward with it. So I'm not wrong. I think so.
Yeah, the grant agreement has been signed by so approved, accepting it.
Okay.
So this is a pivot. Been asked, are we gonna lose the grant? If we pivot right. The answer to that is we have pretty wide window to begin work on the RV park. But by May or June next year, because that's when we were notified of the grant award, we will have to demonstrate that we're making forward progress on the RV park, or that we are not. And then if we're moving forward with the RV park at that time, I have no concerns about the state extending our grant for another year. If by May we're still trying to decide what to do with this location, chances are the state will not extend our grant, and they'll say, okay, we're going to roll this money over to another project somewhere else in the state. So there's not in other words, there's not a great urgency in terms of the state's grant requirements for us to make a decision right now. Just wanted to clear. By the way, we jumped right into the agenda, but I wanted to introduce Colton. I think you've all met him. He was here last month. Colton, very excited to say, and I think I can say this now, has signed an offer letter to be our new parks facilities supervisor.
Awesome.
So Colton will be replacing Austin Hull, who is retiring on December 26th after 28 years of service in the Parks Department. And Austin joined us about a year ago and has been a really fast learner. He's super responsive. He's earned the respect of everybody. This position is not just parks, it's also building and grounds maintenance supervisor. So he reports to me, but he also reports to Cheryl, because she's often sending the parks crew, Austin and his team, to various buildings owned by the city, including over by the airport. We have our city shop. We own some industrial space over there. The roof of City Hall, when you see panels leaking and things like that, that's the parks crew who maintains all of our buildings and all of downtown streets, not streets, but downtown sidewalks, and plows miles and miles of pathways and parking lots all over town. So Colton, I invited him to here today. One of my goals for the parks building and grounds maintenance division in the years ahead is to do more stuff ourselves. We do plenty in terms of maintenance, but when I say that, I mean like build stuff. An example is Colton and Austin and Ted and other guys from the parks division just built new swing sets at City Beach Park. Just finished it. They poured the concrete, they framed the concrete up themselves. They brought in the mulch themselves in a city vehicle. They moved the mulch. They put the footers in the ground and put those swing sets in themselves. That's something that we could have hired out, spend an extra $25,000 to have a contractor do. But we've got really skilled guys. Colton has a background in construction and irrigation. We have miles of irrigation in the ground in our city parks. So he's going to be a real asset. Welcome. So let's.
Congrats.
They'll supervise a team of 5 additional year-round parks employees and 5 or 6 seasonal parks employees. So thanks, Colton. And you wanted to say something?
I know that's probably not pertinent at all, but on this plan that was scratched.
It's not scratched. It's still the adopted plan.
Oh, it's still the adopted
Yeah,
plan.
pending funding.
If we did the boat launches there from end of September until April, you wouldn't be able to launch a boat.
No, this plan would require a significant amount of dredging of Sand Creek.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, man, that's gonna make a lot of people that go fishing mad.
And you might recall last year, I got a quote for some dredging in Sand Creek because we were thinking about, we're thinking about improving just seasonal or winter launches from the existing boat ramps. And the estimate I got was $2.5 to $3 million for dredging to allow access to our existing boat launches at lower water marks. So dredging is not cheap. Just to make this part of the creek accessible, we'd have to relocate the existing channel because there's not enough channel for boats to get in and out of Sand Creek Marina in the summer if we have a boat launch here.
There's also concerns with dredging as it relates to like the environmental impact and the aquatic invasive species and the dredging activity. And so it's kind of necessarily a slam dunk when you ask that you're going to get to do it.
Okay, so back to the agenda, the update for you. So I really view three potential outcomes of this community engagement process. And all of them involve amending our parks master plan. We're not going to end up in a situation where we have the resources to implement our parks master plan, which is the relocation of the boat launches. So my goal for this is that by January, after the new council has been seated, this is definitely something we want the new council to have their vote on. We should have some options to present to council with preferences based on community engagement. I don't know what other options we might bring to council than these 3. So the first one would be to amend the Parks Master Plan to include a renovated RV park in the current RV parks location, where currently a relocated boat launch and boat trailer parking is shown. Staff would then reopen the solicitation for the RV park renovation with an updated timeline, pushing milestones back a couple of months from what was in the original request for solicitations. Staff are optimistic that even with the delay, this decision would entail we could still break ground on the RV park improvements in fall of 2026. That would not jeopardize our grant. We'd be totally fine with the state if that's the decision the council makes. Option 2, amend the Parks Master Plan to include boat trailer parking in the current RV parks location, but removing the relocated boat launches. An updated concept for the site would demonstrate how vehicles launching boats at the ramps at the current location would be directed into and out of what is currently the RV park and not interfere or interface with the larger city beach vehicle parking area. With an updated concept, staff would then open a request for solicitations for the revised scope of work, assuming an agreement with in contract with the Avrils to fund the work can first be reached. Again, we don't have any state funding. We certainly don't have parks capital improvement funds to do that realignment currently. So part of the Avrils presentation was we'll pay for anything other than. But again, words are so a contract and agreement would need to be signed to determine what that entails. A third, amend the Parks Master Plan to include additional vehicle parking or some other park asset in that location of the current RV park. Depending on the result of the community engagement effort over the next 2 months, council may be presented with an entirely new vision for how to best utilize the RV park location. An agreement and contract with the Avrils for funding an alternative improvement would need to be signed, and then staff would embark on a new solicitation for design and engineering of the revised concept. And I just wanted to remind the commission that should council decide to do anything other than a renovation of the RV park in its current location, the $950,000 RV fund grant would be forgone and other funding sources will be needed. So again, Avril's presentation said we'll pay for other improvements, but there's no saying that. just want to let the commission know, like, that's what I'm kind of, that's why I'm approaching this, like, I don't know what other options, if you can think of other options, how this might turn out. Please share them. Additionally, should the city end up with anything other than an RV park in that location, the 21% of our park CIP fund dollars generated from the RV park will need to be replaced through some sort of agreement with the hotel or through paid vehicle and boat trailer parking in that location. Not implementing the RV park stands to decrease parks capital improvement funding by around $115,000, which is what I estimate our net revenues at following a renovation
Per year.
per year. It's going to be around almost 30% of our parks improvement funds will come from that RV park after. And what are those funds? That's what we use to replace basketball. That's what we're going to use to replace docks when they start to sink. That's what we're going to use to, expand access to the water in the future or upgrade it. I know Hickory Park was the next thing on your list after those top three. Replacing a playground at Hickory Park, that's probably a $200,000 project to do a nice new playground at Hickory Park. So under $200,000. But the RV park revenue is what can pay for that, along with mortgage, use of War Memorial Field, use of the Traverse Great Northern Sports Complex. Those are the four funding sources for our park CIP.
What is mortgage revenue roughly?
250,000, followed by War Memorial Field, which is about 75,000. Sports complex, about 30,000.
So mortgage doesn't go specifically just to replace the
No.
floats when they're.
No, which is, and that's another thing, like, what's nice about having multiple funding sources is I'd like to see more of that mortgage revenue go into maintenance of the units, as it should. But it's currently being used to fund all sorts of, well, keep in mind, we're coming off of 10 years of alternative funding. That's right. We're all, as we said last month, like, we're moving into I believe in the next 10 years, we're going to be self-funding most of these projects. We had the local option tax, which was like $9 million generated. And we had the $7.5 million donation from the Russells that paid for most of our big parks projects in the last decade. So.
So the leasing for sure would come back into that fund.
Yeah,
The what, sorry.
The leasing.
I think
like
that's, I believe that's what council would desire. We're taking an asset that generates revenues for this fund and replacing it with something that doesn't. We want to make sure that whatever is being paid for that should be go.
You're talking about leasing for the park, for the RV park lot?
If they leased in lieu of.
I mean, if this, the council direction was to not sell or lease.
Or lease.
And I'm not asking, at exactly that place. It's kind of a leading question because I know at IDL, we're looking at leasing some of the littoral rights on the lake. And the city owns a substantial amount of lakefront footage out on the Bay Trail. And it's possible leasing some of that littoral space out so people could build docks outward. Not impacting the trail system, but providing for more public access might be an option, and that might be a revenue generating source as well. And it'd be out into the water, and I'm just curious if the idea of leasing would actually always come back into the parks pot.
We discussed this morning, actually, with the department heads, with our attorneys. The term lease is kind of weird because a lease always involves a quid pro quo, right?
Mhm.
You give me something and I'll give you something in return. In this case, the Avrils are asking us not to do something. And because of the covenant on that property, which I'm sure you've heard of at this point, because of the covenant, it can only be used for public park purposes. So they can't lease it as a private parking lot. Right, when we accepted that property from the railroad 100 years ago, a covenant was placed on it, say it can forever only be used for public park purposes. So if Avrils lease it, it doesn't give them exclusive rights to it. They can't. The covenant would be violated, and the railroad could take ownership of that property back.
But if it's public, they can also.
So lease is probably not the right word. They'd be replacing the revenue lost from the RV park in one way or another. Whatever that agreement or contract is called, it's a lease, probably the right term.
Yeah.
In
lieu fees.
Yeah.
I just think we could look at, if the city is interested in leasing littoral space, we could look at possibly that other section of lakefront footage, where you could potentially build out into the water. And it seems like maybe part of the problem is limited docks. Docks are always an issue, not enough moorage, and that is a revenue generating opportunity for the future. But like, it seems to us, our job is to try and create more revenue to fix basketball courts. And so we have to figure out ways to create money in other ways, like that might. be
I'm not
something-
necessarily asking you all to do that. I think what was presented to council last week was we're asking you not to put an RV park there. We're willing to pay you the 110% of the revenue you earn from the RV park in order to not put it there.
But I heard that the meeting was even bigger numbers than that. I think they
Yeah.
said 250,000 is.
I mean,
What I heard.
so here's the deal, it was like, it was obviously an emotional meeting. So the idea was, instead of in our emotions being like, no, we want an RV park, where you had 2 weeks ago, nobody defending the RV park, and in that meeting, the citizens felt like they had to defend the RV park, like that was their big gem. This gives an opportunity maybe to come, hopefully with more level heads, communicate, where Glenn's idea, maybe that is something they want, right? But there was no way that was gonna happen that night. So this at least gives the community an opportunity to speak, maybe come with a better, maybe they're gonna put their money where their mouth is. Maybe it's an offer that's just wonderful. Everybody's like, okay, if we can get that in writing and keep them accountable to it, then great. We just felt like that would be a lost opportunity if we didn't take it to some sort of.
Yeah, letting cooler heads prevail.
Yeah,
What is the highest and best use for that property for the citizens?
Right.
Right, yeah.
and if it is an RV park at the end of the day, so be it. But at least there was community outreach.
Thank you.
And the citizens benefit from the RV park by virtue of the revenue generated and what that revenue can provide. And
Yeah.
is there is boat trailer storage of higher and better use? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think, I think the process makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see what the people think.
Yeah, I think
Also-
anytime you implement, sorry. Anytime you implement change, it's important to get buy-in from the community, as we've seen. And best way you do that is by involving the community in the process of the change. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea to do these workshops. I don't know exactly what they'll look like, but to allow, the citizens of Sandpoint to choose.
I'm hoping you all can tell me how you think that workshop should look.
Right, and
Whoa, how can you guys think?
I think part of it should be what you just told us and what you told us before about the plan being, that was kind of like a dream concept, right? But if we had money, this is what it would look like, but having that money, that's a big part of it. So kind of factoring in that when people are looking to make a decision on what to do with this property is knowing that there may not be the money right now to move the boat. We had also talked about maybe renovating the boat launch with the grant, and that's something that could be done. It would be at the current location. You were saying it's improving the things that we already have instead of grander idea of moving something or it's a lot of money that is not feasible. Just kind of educating people before they up with ideas on stats.
They're not shackled to the old plan and blank slate in some respects.
something to consider too, it might not be that simple. You might have the community engagement where they're like, we don't want anything but parking there. But we still have this opportunity for the grant for the RV park. So then council has to decide, okay, do we listen to that meeting and say we just want nothing and we lose a revenue source? Or do we say, well, the best thing for the future in this now in the future is to actually have the RV park? So in that meeting, it may even somewhat not backfire, but be where nobody wants an RV park. They just want parking.
But it will give the Admirals an opportunity to,
So we just have to navigate.
Here-
that carefully.
hear what the people want and what could be lost if there's not an RV park and then what they're willing to provide. Are they willing to offset that revenue and build a boat trailer parking lot and a public restroom? Maybe.
Yeah.
There also could be other people and like companies who come out of the woodworks, like, I didn't even know that was an option that I could propose something to do down there, like, like it kind of equitably, maybe the new people who run the concessions at City Beach have a grand idea about doing something in that space, or Action Water Sports or Ralph Slediger, or, it's kind of like, I don't know that we just need to entertain one company's thoughts if we're bringing the idea up that we're gonna use this to the best use of the city of Sandpoint. And, I don't know why it's just they are at the table either. I think whatever we do, in my opinion, if we're gonna walk through the exercise, I think we should try to fix the master plan as it relates to Trappers Park at the same time. Because it seems like a similar thing, has happened there where there was a large donation, we could say no. We move forward, but what's on paper might not reflect what's actually in the plan. And this would be an opportunity for the community to kind of look at these opportunities, and as we walk through the process, fix it, explain it, to folks so that they can understand it and feel more a part of the process. And get those drawings as it relates to Traverse up to speed. For moving forward and for these folks to know what they're.
That was one of my suggestions on the initiatives for this year was
Mine
just
too.
these grandiose plans that are doubtful at best in terms of ever being implemented, and then how does that relate to new batting cages? How does that relate to be part, all these little opportunities, new playground at City Beach, right? I mean, new swing sets, I guess, is what you talked about. None of those things are on that, that adopted master plan, so. I guess communicating that those master plans are grandiose visions, and then, I don't know what that process looks like, or I don't necessarily think that the RV park has a timeline and needs to follow a particular process in terms of funding, but don't want to disregard the Traverse thing. I don't think we would pair that up with the RV park and City Beach in terms of a public process right now. I think they're two separate things, but I think it does need to get addressed.
I
think it's-
noticed all three of your, proposed, all three options start with amend the parks master plan. Is that, do I infer that to mean that you don't see a way forward that doesn't include that?
I think,
Is it not possible?
given
to
the
move
attention
forward
on all
without
this
an
right now,
amendment?
it just makes sense to do it. I mean, if we're going to engage in a new, visioning process around this, it's an opportunity to do that.
It's an opportunity, but not necessarily a requirement.
Well, going back to the idea that absent a funding mechanism, want to implement anything in the parks master plan, or we're going to renovate what we have in its current location. So with $1 million on the table, that I think it's probably important. And there is if we move forward with the RV park, there's a expectation from the state that it remains an RV park for 25 years. So that's a master plan level adoption, right?
Yeah.
If we decide 5 years from now, we're going to turn this into boat trailer park, the state can come back and say, hey, this money was for an RV park.
That makes more sense.
James and Russell seems to be like a qualifying building.
Yeah.
Master plan update as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I apologize.
Yeah, and
Guys,
Maybe that
quick-
should have
quick point,
preceded
just
some of
about
the-
minutes. Again,
Yeah,
You've actually-
Clay, I'm sorry.
we've actually.
We're
amended that
we're
park.
very limited on time.
This has to do with the amendment. You've amended that parks plan once. Move the carousel from, picture that in there. It's not always used on the city website, but that has been amended once already, to your point. There was a process to do that, and it's process of updated drawing on the. That was approved by council.
Okay.
I guess, Jason, one other thing that I just kind of have big picture, is, when we got going with this Parks and Rec Commission, you had 3 more staff. And you had a Parks and Rec director, and I don't know what the vision for the team is, if there's going to be another Parks and Rec director, or if that's gonna
Oh,
stay as.
we haven't had a Parks and Rec director since 2021.
So we had Maeve and we
Yeah,
had,
Parks Development Manager was her title. We
And
had a
she's-
Recreation Superintendent.
and so who would within the current roles work on amending the master plan? Right,
Yeah, it's me.
yeah, it seems like a heavy burden,
Yeah, but in administration, I mean, things can always change. We have a new council coming in 6 weeks. I don't think that the staff that we have today is what the staff are gonna have for 4 years, but I'll still be here. Very well could have other positions. I looking to rehire a recreation supervisor here, or recreation coordinator here
okay.
this
Okay.
winter, actually.
Okay.
So that's not a leadership level position,
Right.
but there's huge desire to get some rec programs up and running again.
Yeah, because that's also kind of on my list.
Yeah, and also, I mean, when we get to the staff updates at the end of the meeting, like, you're gonna see how the James Russell Sports Center is performing right now, and it's rushing. So the goal was to get that facility
Yeah.
into a stable place and then bring back some of our other rec programs. So. Yeah, no, amending the Parks Master Plan is just, and every time you read the word staff in these reports, it's just me. Me and Cam.
And myself and I.
But it sounds really weird when I say I in these staff reports.
Question, has there been a report or study on boat trailer parking or boat launching and what kind of revenue that might generate?
Good question.
Because I don't think you need to amend the plan if you do the parking.
Yeah.
Just do the parking, how much money can that replace or bring in to offset the RV? parking?
Great
Yeah.
question. Very good question. During the parking management plan development earlier this year, I did several sort of models estimating revenue from off-street parking facilities in town, but I did not separate out boat trailer parking. What the city of Coeur d'Alene does is they charge 2x the vehicle rate for a boat trailer, because boat trailer behind a vehicle takes up 2 vehicle spaces essentially. So I think, they're at their McEwen Park boat launch, they, whatever it is, charging $3 an hour for vehicles, $6 an hour for vehicles with boat trailers. So our parking management plan that was adopted on June 18th by council proposes just that, just basically emulating what city of Coeur d'Alene does. They charge $10 per launch. We're proposing $10 per launch. $50 if you're a state of Idaho boat owner, you get a $50 annual pass for unlimited launches. It's exactly what all the other launches in the region are doing that aren't currently free. And the city of Coeur d'Alene and Boone County were kind of the two that I went off. So there's definitely going to be more revenue generated at City Beach Park through boat launch fees and parking fees next year. So that's another, but that's not slated to go into the Parks Capital Improvement Fund. That's another important thing. The mayor and council did not commit to putting parking revenues into the Parks Fund. Right now, the
Where
idea
did
is
they
that
commit to putting that?
there wasn't a commitment.
Oh, okay.
No,
That's, so
it's not,
to
it's
be
not determined
determined?
yet. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So that, maybe a decision would be made in the future that if we're charging for parking at City Beach, that parking revenue should go into the Parks Capital. Maybe a separate City Beach. That's not inside. It's a volleyball court improvement fund. That's what Joel is saying to me. Volleyball court improvement.
I have a question.
Bitcoin. There you go.
When we talk about that parcel, does that extend into the water where we have a marina, but
Let's look.
slips there? Trying to get an idea of the scope. Decisions to be made. No, I'm talking about the RV park parcel and where it ends on the south side.
So, the parcel, so what I learned through researching the history of this parcel is that while this was all privately owned, which it was until 2021, so it took place with the Cox family, the city had an agreement to operate. So we always owned these docks. The city has always owned these docks that are partially on the RV park parcel. So you can see the RV park parcel is outlined here. This is the 2.29 acres. It says 1.89 here, but it's actually 2.89 according to the deed. We acquired this in a land swap with the previous owners of the hotel in 2021. That's what gave the hotel the something acres on the beach here, and what made the current hotel project supposedly feasible. The have not implied that a lease of the RV park would include docks here. We do believe that they're still looking for access to some boat slips, though. That was just not part of it. And if you read my staff report for last Wednesday, they have asked for access to boat slips. That they just withdrew that request from last week's meeting. Scope to just the RV property. No, I mean, there's something like, I think there's 13 here and like 20 or so over here. There's like 33 or 35 boat slips between these two docks that partially exist on that property. There's I don't think council's ever gonna agree to including 35 boat slips with the lease of the. And again, the lease is not the right term. To replace the RV park.
Right, I was just wondering for our, community workshops and stuff, is that included, those boat slips?
No, I don't think so. I think we're gonna narrow the scope, like, what's the best use of
The uplands.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dry land of this
Okay.
parcel?
Cause
Okay, cool.
Amy, those boat slips get rented through the normal process as well.
Yep.
They're not just sailboats, so those are where like power boats.
That's a
go.
powerboat preference marina over there. Cause it's not deep enough.
Yeah,
for most
exactly.
Sailboats.
For the sailboats, yeah. Like the windbag was built more for sailboat
Yes.
jetty
Correct.
purposes. It seems like, I mean, obviously we're lacking and that's why it was just like starting to explore north of the seasons, like you have all that shoreline. City can kind of have whatever they want when it comes to community, what the Department of Lands and waterfront people call commercial marinas. There's a lot of littoral space out there.
But remember, the Ponderay Bay Trail was always to be like a community access. If you have boat trailers and stuff in front of it, and it's supposed to be a nature walk, then that completely takes away from that. What
I
that's
mean, the
about.
parking would be challenging, but as you start,
Not parking, I'm talking about boat docks in front of the trail. It's like
but if
not,
they
I
were for everybody,
think that that's another conversation for another day. Can we go on to the next topic?
So I'd love to have you guys involved in this. A charrette, a town hall workshop where the Parks Commission is there. He spreads out at various tables and oversees the efforts of, if we have 9 Parks Commissioners, we had 9 tables with 8 people each, we could get 72 citizens together and vision this out. Are you guys open to that? I mean, there was the idea of maybe hiring a consultant for this, but the more we've talked about it internally this week, I think it's something we should do on our own. This is what commissions are for. You guys are our sensitives of the Sandpoint citizenry. Love if you could facilitate something with me and some other staff. I do plan to use some other staff from the CP, so the park staff on this effort.
Yeah, and also think about what does that look like for Averill, right? They're the ones that want to offer a certain amount of monies. And for them to be transparent, like, what do you really want?
Yeah.
And what we don't want is, we just don't want RV park there. And then later on, it's like, well, we want all these docks. So they need to be, it needs to be very clear that they need to come out right away, ask for what they want. And then let the citizens decide and work backwards. Say, no, you're not getting this, you're not getting this. This is what we want. This is how much we want, or however that works. I mean,
Do it. I think we gotta talk about it somehow.
it probably should happen soonish, right?
Yeah.
Before Christmas, I'm not gonna fast track this and try to
Okay.
get it done as soon as possible. I think there are some that would like us to do this as soon as possible, but, knowing that we're not gonna bring a proposal to council until the new council members are seated, I think if we do this in early December, before things start to get crazy around Christmas time. So I would propose maybe, at what's the date of our December meeting, Cammy? Gonna be the second Wednesday, so it's gonna be like December 9th or something.
in order for us to have like another meeting where we could all get together besides our next council
Yeah.
meeting, we have to have an action item on an agenda to propose special
We can
meetings.
certainly have a special Parks Commission meeting, or we could just say, maybe at our December 10th meeting, we,
Yeah.
like, staff comes with a plan, we kind of rehearse it, practice it, and then maybe the next week we hold a workshop. And you guys will have we can spend the next meeting kind of preparing for that workshop. You guys, are you okay? Are you guys comfortable with that? That will give me 4 weeks now to work with some other people on staff here who have a lot of experience with this sort of charrette type engagement. We can prepare like kind of a plan, and then on December 10th, which is our next commission meeting, I can bring that plan. You guys can make any tweaks you want, but we can also kind of rehearse and prepare for a workshop that would take place in the week or two after that. This would be the week after that.
And you'll communicate with Averill what we're planning on
Yeah.
doing, so they.
Yeah, we'll set a date. I'm gonna talk to the mayor about this tomorrow, but we'll set a date, probably that second week of December. And then at our December 10th meeting, we can all be preparing for that. Might use the sports center. It's got a lot of round tables we can circle up around. Big screens we can project stuff onto.
Community room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the community room would be a great place for this. We can fit over 60 people seated there. And if we spill over, we can go out into the lobby area. Thanks.
So
Yes.
Tammy, we just don't have December 10 on our calendar yet in terms of I personally have a conflict on that day. That is supposed to be our generic day.
Yeah, the second state.
So
I think the idea makes sense.
Yeah.
That works for me.
You know, with a common script, I mean, I've been a part of several of these in the past where, you know, each table's broken out. Sometimes it, you know, each group is broken out to work on separate tasks. If each group is working on the same thing, then you have you appoint somebody, whether that's, I guess, us, if we're leading the efforts at each table, then they're presenting individually and you kind of come up with some, when the whole group gets back together at the end with some comment. Like, yeah, let's go with that. That's a good idea. Yeah, they're just individual little brainstorming sessions for each smaller group, so nobody feels you know, scared to talk in a bigger room, right? You got 5 or 6 people around the table instead of 50 in a room, you know?
Yeah.
Brainstorming, no idea is a bad idea. Everything's on the table.
Yeah. So I'll save it for the charrette.
Can't wait.
So we've got about
I think it's a good one. I don't know if anybody else agrees.
15 minutes left.
Okay.
We've got 2 agenda items on here.
Oh, yeah, what else?
One is an action item. That's the Parks and Recreation 2026 initiatives. Is that,
Yeah,
those 3 things that we voted on, the basketball courts and after stuff?
yeah, I guess it's, again, like. And I was looking forward that I articulated staff report was just. Affirmation that you guys are good with me moving forward with those 3 efforts. That,
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
okay. If you want to make it a vote,
Sure.
can, but I don't. Well, I was a little uncertain. You guys aren't really the decision-making body, so we might have
Yeah.
action items, and it's more just to inform staff. As far as what direction we're.
Yeah, I think we're going.
We didn't get to the sponsor, and I prepared nothing for the sponsorship policy today. Can we
Can-
postpone that? to a
Let's
future
table that
agenda?
one, yeah. For 2026 initiatives with the wastewater treatment plant bond passing. Josh, you may know more and be more informed on this, but we have that Baldfoot disc golf course out there. I don't know how the bond would impact that, but if the city owns that property, I would love for it to stay a
I
recreational
have a feeling we're gonna
opportunity.
be talking about that in the new year for sure.
Okay,
I think the water utility is gonna have to, or the wastewater utility is gonna be required to sell that property. We've been accumulating parks impact fee funds. The idea of using it for a parks property purchase, so there might be the possibility for council to consider buying it using some parks impact fee funds. So stay tuned on that. Yeah,
Think, sorry to interrupt you, when we originally formed this committee is that several of us expressed the importance of protecting the green belts and protecting what we already have. So I think it's important for us to talk about that in advance before something just gets sold out from underneath the city. So that's why we're trying to be proactive. I know several of us feel passionate about, our main projects were, we all had different things that were, but almost every one of us felt protecting the green belts and keeping those existing spaces were number one for almost all of us. So we want to express the importance.
Yeah, and just being able to chat about what are the different opportunities, what are the different ways to possibly keep it in the Parks and Rec department, or, do we need to get a grant? I know KLT said they would help, with any kind of grant writing, or there's a lot of people that to keep the property, and but yeah, we're kind of in the dark on what's happening with it and how that the sewer thing is going through. I think it's time has come to start talking about it. Get a game plan to, uh, come up with some different options, A, B, and C of how to keep it, because I know it gets used a lot. It's
So
huge. If
Would
we
there
had
be a
this much
requirement to
excitement
pay
about-
market rate for that?
See, what is the
that's the
market?
question for city attorney.
It was
I know an appraisal would be involved.
years ago to appraise, it was only like $1 million. So it was very
And that's,
expensive
was that the
property.
purchase price? I seem to recall that was around the purchase.
I think it was 900.
950 or something.
I
Yeah,
think it was, yeah, it
You mean
did
what we
appraise.
paid for it?
yeah, what the sewer fund
What the
paid
sewer
for
paid
that
for it.
property. I thought it was around that.
You were probably on staff at the time or
I
not?
don't know. I don't
That'd
think I
be great.
was. It was before. When I showed up, it was this, basically that stormwater master plan was getting finalized to determine that that was not the location for treatment.
And a lot of people have said, well, it's not a problem because nobody wants to develop it. It's undevelopable for subdivision, right? But someone could just buy it and split it off into 3 homes, 1 home,
Also,
Somebody
don't
could
underestimate that claim. A couple million bucks and you could have a sewer line connecting it to a lift station on the east side of the railroad tracks. So it's in city limits, which it doesn't need to be annexed. So.
Well, sure,
an investment
that's a
by the right
possibility,
developer
but even at $1 million, it's a possibility that just one rich person could buy and plop a house on there and all of a sudden, we're getting 600 to, even in the summertime, we're getting like over 1,000 users a month. It's heavily used property. And it's low maintenance. Right now, it's all being maintained by volunteers and,
That's a great example of a grassroots effort to develop it in the first place, right? I mean, that wasn't, how much city money went into developing this golf course?
zero.
Yeah.
Part of all, it's
Just
all
mine it.
just
Yeah.
man hours and, some donations from like Missouri, some donations for the parking lot. I think the city's help the parking lot plowing or.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know more than I'm saying right now, which is that I'm told that we're probably gonna have to sell it next year. We have pretty good amount in our parks development impact fee fund, depending on which projects go forward. I mean, another thing is like that hotel, they're gonna pay about $320,000 into the parks development impact fee fund if they don't pull the building permits before the end of December. So the hotel could help pay for the bulk of the property through its impact fees. But if they don't, if they do pull building permits for the end of December, there's no current impact fees for parks, for hotels. So the current impact fees don't even include parks for the hotel project. That's one of the reasons you might recall their impact fees went up by $700,000-800,000 when we adopted the new fee schedule, but that doesn't go into effect till January 1st. So like on one hand, the longer we can delay having to buy it, the more money we'll have in the impact fee fund to buy it. So if we don't have enough right now to pay even what it was appraised at a few years ago. So it's kind of like the longer we can kick the can down the road. If the
Until
goal,
council
if the goal is
decides
to use
to sell it,
impact fee funds.
right? They just decided, hey, we gotta do this, we're getting
Well,
pressure.
but we, I mean, did he?
And does that have to be a public auction though? When you have public property, it goes into a public surplus auction or?
I mean, this would be like an internal transfer, like, I think you could justify the city, say, the city purchasing it from the wastewater fund at an appraised value. I don't think you would necessarily need to.
Yeah, you would hope
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's what we should be rooting for.
Yeah.
Is that we internally can purchase it and
I don't
work
think
that out
we
without
have to.
having to do a public.
So I understood we have to sell it at market value, but we can.
Advertise
Yeah,
ourselves.
so I understood, I'm no lawyer.
Yeah, I wouldn't think there would have to be a,
Seems like we should maybe put that on the agenda for next month.
Can I share another couple updates with you before we could, maybe ask for an update from Holly, Public Works Director, or Cheryl, or Central Services Director, like as far as the process for.
or
that.
legal in terms of what's required and.
So let's, maybe a note.
Or January, if we have the time, with December being, if you're gonna take the whole meeting to deal with figuring out how to public.
Yeah.
I mean, that next meeting will be very busy, but if it could go on the agenda for maybe January, if there's not a timeframe.
So, Ryan couldn't be here today. He's been very busy. You can see from our scheduling app why he's been very busy. For the month of November, there's been almost no vacancy at the sports center. It's like you gotta book a week out now to get a court there. This is today. This was yesterday. We had LPOSD teacher night last night. There were about 30 teachers there getting free pickleball lessons from Ryan. And it's just been absolutely slammed. There's a kids program that has 40 kids involved after school right now, ages 5 to 10. That's being run by members of the Sandpoint Tennis Association. We've got our men's double league. I tried to sign up for that yesterday morning. I was too late. There's 16 men playing every Tuesday night for 2 hours before we close. It's doing super well. Ryan shared these screenshots from the back end with me today. Wanted me to share them with you. Where did they go? So just some revenue and membership figures. This is it's November. Let's go to October. So we only started using court reserve on September 1st. And throughout the month of September, we transitioned people from the old rec track to the new court reserve. But then by October 1st, we had everybody on court reserve. So this is our revenue numbers for October, $11,539, respectable. Okay. That's our biggest month to date was October. But then in November, that has gone up. In the first 11 days of November, we've made $7,535. That's around $720 per day we've been averaging so far this month. And to break even there, we need to make around $550 a day. So we are exceeding we're profiting right now, but over the year, of course, those numbers fluctuate. But this was our second winter ever that we're going into right now. It's the first winter with this new reservation system, the new membership model. And then the last image he wanted me to share was the actual membership numbers today. We have 373 registered members in court reserve right now. 143 of those are guest members, meaning they're not paying the monthly fee, but they're paying the $15 fee when they come. The team over there, the 5 or 6 front desk employees have been trained and they've been practicing and doing really well at converting guest members to monthly or annual members. Clearly the annual membership is preferred. We have 47 plus 44 plus 58. That's a little over 150 annual members we have. That's preferred because that's revenue that comes in every single month. They pay monthly for an annual membership. So every month, 30 days from their last payment, their $60 or $70 goes into the account. Excuse me, into the account.
When you say break even, that's operational costs and human resources?
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah. If we make $550 to $600 a day, we are more than covering our costs.
And is that
Labor,
an
utilities,
annualized?
annualized, yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
because I'm assuming the break even in winter
Yeah.
is more than.
So the
break
goal, oh, well, no, I don't, that's just annualized, taking because of course our utility bills go from like $500 a month to $2,900 a month in the winter. But when you annualize that out over the year, it comes out to about $550 to $600 a day. Is what we need to average over the year. So from the way we're going now, we're going to see this is exactly what needs to happen, right? Our winter revenues are going to be higher.
Sure.
Because people aren't playing outside anymore.
Right.
Our winter costs are higher, but our winter revenues are going to exceed our costs. And then throughout the year, I'm not promising we're going to break even over the next 12 months. I don't think we will. We're still going to be subsidizing this out of the recreation fund. Very important for you guys to know, for the community to know, we're not using any general fund dollars to support this facility. The recreation fund is that 4.5% of property taxes that goes towards recreation. But my goal, and I've told the mayor this, is when this facility consistently week after week and month after month is covering its costs or close to covering its costs, we can use some of those recreation fund dollars to bring back other recreation programs, like adult volleyball, like adult softball. These are the 2 most popular adult programs that we offer to the city. So my goal is to bring back some adult programming over the winter and then in the spring with softball again. And that can be justified. I have to convince every other department head and the mayor that we can afford to do this without, draining that recreation fund. But I'm confident that with the utilization, the membership, the revenues that we're seeing, it's justifiable going forward. Yes, sir.
Well, I think you did the correct hire with Ryan. What a turnaround. I was there yesterday. It was packed.
Packed.
how do we get on the agenda to take care of this lady's? Do we need to officially email it into Cami to get that in the future to take care? Because we've talked about the sound in the back of that thing for like 3 or 4 different times, and I'm not sure why it's not taken care of. Or what we need to do to properly get it on.
I could have a report on that at upcoming meeting.
And I just don't remember what the outcome was, so.
Yeah, let's talk about that, you know. Action for you.
For December or January?
I think we're gonna be pretty busy in this. Sure.
So if we can put the purchasing of the property in January
But-
and an update,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it's an update. I don't know if you listened last one, but it sounds like the police are involved, the police departments monitoring the noise volume, and they have some say.
Well, and if we get enough things on the agenda for next month, we might have to just do a 10-minute quick meeting before, just to knock out a couple things.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock. Anybody have anything else they want to add in real quick before we adjourn?
Was the initiative, the intent of that, my understanding was to help. Help. Inform council what this body was intending to do. Wasn't that the 2026 initiatives? Wasn't that kind of what this body would be working on for the upcoming fiscal year? Was that,
Those three,
oh, is that what that
No, I
was?
thought we were supposed to that was the 1 to 3 ideas.
We got an email that said like, we each
That-
need to come up with 1 to 3
Yes.
ideas, and then we all kind of vote on it, and we propose it to council on this, these are the things we're interested in.
oh,
I
you
mean,
you mean
for
out-
2026.
outside of the 3 projects that we
Yes.
identified?
I mean, it was an action. I do agree that should get back on the agenda for January
Yeah.
too, because
It
and
was
it's
from-
possible.
Got forwarded from another,
Yeah, that was my, yeah, I anticipated that.
it said each commission is doing this, and
Oh, I know what you're saying. There's a broader initiative across all the commissions. Yeah,
so like,
I actually told the mayor, like, I feel like the Parks Commission is kind of doing, that's what we did last month by ranking our 3 priorities. So that email came from the clerk's office. But there are other commissions that have not been as focused as this one in the last year. So I think it was,
So we've covered that base essentially.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I
With
can't
the
imagine
3
having
votes,
to
okay.
on Monday to do anything else.
I know, or we need to have more meetings.
well, how about this, how about if someone has an idea,
Sure.
they can email Taylor and Cammy and maybe put it on as an agenda item. I know mine personally is fault with thing just because it's coming to that time where I think we need to research it, so.
I think
Mine personally, if anyone else has one that they're passionate about, that we haven't talked about, maybe we talk about it next meeting.
Am I supposed to get these emails you guys are talking about?
Tammy can
Okay, I just don't. I
make sure
didn't.
you're on.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. I gotta go.
Yeah, so.
With no further business before the commission, this meeting is now adjourned at 4:02 PM. Thank you, guys.
Doug Taylor, you're doing comfortable and share.
Uh,